It was a bright morning, and Spidey, the curious explorer, had been sailing the vast oceans for days on end. He had spent countless hours on his raft, dreaming of finding something new, something exciting, and something that would ignite the spark of adventure within him once more. He had heard rumors of mysterious islands scattered across the ocean, but never did he imagine he would actually discover one for himself. And yet as the sun shone brightly overhead, he spotted something on the horizon. It was an island, lush with trees and mysterious in its beauty. His heart raced with excitement as he steered his raft toward it. This was it, his first discovery, the beginning of something new. As Spidey approached the island, he could barely contain his excitement. The sea was calm, the waves gently rocking his raft. The closer he got, the more vibrant and alive the island seemed. He could see towering trees, vibrant flowers, and rocky shores. It was the perfect place for an adventure. He anchored his raft and stepped onto the sandy shore. The sea smelled fresh, like the earth itself was alive with energy. Spidey took a deep breath and looked around, trying to take in every detail of the landscape. This was no ordinary place. There was something magical about it. The island seemed to whisper, calling him to explore further. Spidey began walking, his boots crunching against the soft ground. As he ventured deeper into the island, he noticed something unexpected. There was a village. It wasn't large, but it was definitely a village, with small huts made of wood and straw, a few market stalls, and people walking about. He approached cautiously, wondering if he was trespassing. But as he drew closer, an old woman in a brightly colored dress waved him and called out, "Welcome, traveler! Come, join us!" Spidey, though a bit taken aback, smiled and waved back. "Thank you," he said, walking toward the village. The woman introduced herself as Mabel, the village elder. She had a warm smile and a spark in her eyes, and she quickly made Spidey feel at home. As they walked through the village, Mabel explained that the island had been home to generations of people who lived in harmony with nature. She spoke of the island's history, its powerful artifacts, and the ancient ruins that lay hidden in the hills, but warned Spidey to be cautious. "You see," Mabel said with a hint of mystery, "there are ancient ruins hidden in the hills, and some say that the spirits of the island guard those ruins fiercely." Spidey's curiosity was piqued. "What's inside the ruins?" he asked. "Ah, that's the mystery," Mabel said with a twinkle in her eye. "No one knows for sure, but those who have ventured into the ruins never return the same, or sometimes they never return at all." As Mabel continued talking, Spidey's attention was drawn to a small white dog wandering through the village. It was a fluffy little thing, with bright eyes and a playful wagging tail. The dog trotted up to Spidey and immediately nuzzled his leg, as if greeting him like an old friend. "Ah, that's Snow," Mabel said with a smile. "She's been wandering around the village for a while now. She must have taken a liking to you." Spidey bent down to pet the dog, feeling an instant bond. Snow wagged her tail even more vigorously, and Spidey couldn't help but smile. She seemed like the perfect companion for his journey. "Hello there, Snow," Spidey said, scratching behind the dog's ears. "Looks like you and I are going to be great friends." Mabel chuckled. "Snow is a loyal companion. She'll stick by you through thick and thin." From that moment on, Snow followed Spidey wherever he went, her bright eyes watching him carefully. Spidey couldn't help but feel like he was no longer alone on this island. With Snow by his side, he was ready for whatever adventure awaited him. Later that evening, as the sun began to set and the sky turned golden, Spidey sat by a small campfire near the village. The flames flickered in the cool breeze, casting long shadows on the ground. Snow curled up at his feet, content and relaxed. Spidey thought about what Mabel had said earlier, the ruins, the mystery of the island. There was something about it that called to him, something that tugged at his curiosity. He felt a burning desire to uncover the secrets hidden within those ancient stones. "I'm going to find out what's really hidden there," Spidey thought to himself, determination building inside him. "But I'll need to be careful. Mabel's right. The island's secrets are dangerous." He glanced at Snow, who was sleeping peacefully, and made a decision. "Tomorrow, we'll explore the ruins. But first, I'll need supplies. I can't face whatever dangers are lurking without being prepared." The next morning, Spidey gathered his things, a few tools, a couple of snacks, and a small map he found in the village, then set off toward the hills where the ruins were said to be located. Snow trotted happily by his side, her tail wagging as she bounded over the uneven terrain. As Spidey walked, he couldn't help but marvel at the island's beauty. The lush greenery, the tall trees, and the gentle streams that crisscrossed the landscape. Everything about the island seemed so peaceful and serene. But he knew that under this calm exterior, there were mysteries waiting to be uncovered. After a short walk, they reached the base of the hills, and Spidey looked up at the ancient stone structures peeking through the trees. The ruins were large and imposing, covered in ivy and moss, with strange markings carved into the stone. It was clear that these ruins had been here for centuries, possibly even longer. "Here we are," Spidey said, his voice a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Let's see what secrets you're hiding." Snow gave a soft bark as if in agreement, and they began their ascent into the ruins, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead.
Spidey felt a rush of excitement as he and Snow approached the entrance to the ruins. The stone doorway loomed ahead, intricately carved with mysterious symbols that he couldn't understand. The air felt heavier here, charged with an ancient energy that both thrilled and unsettled him. "Ready, Snow?" Spidey whispered, though he wasn't sure if the dog understood. Nevertheless, Snow wagged her tail and gave an excited bark, seemingly eager for the adventure ahead. Spidey gripped his trusty pickaxe and stepped into the dark passage. The walls of the ruins were damp and cold, and as they ventured deeper, the light from the outside began to fade. Spidey took a deep breath, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. He lit a torch to guide their way, the flickering flame casting dancing shadows on the stone walls. As they walked further, the path split into two directions. One path was steep and narrow, while the other seemed to wind deeper into the heart of the ruins. Spidey paused, considering his options. The narrow path didn't look promising, but the winding one, that could lead to something important. "Let's try the winding one," Spidey said, feeling his excitement grow as he chose the left path. Snow followed closely, her nose twitching as she sniffed the air, sensing something unfamiliar. They walked for what felt like hours, the path becoming increasingly claustrophobic. The stone walls were slick with moisture, and the only sounds were their footsteps and the occasional drip of water from the ceiling. Spidey's torchlight flickered in the eerie silence, creating strange shadows that seemed to move on their own. Eventually, the path opened up into a large chamber, its high ceiling supported by ancient pillars. And in the center of the room stood a massive stone pedestal, and on it, something that glowed faintly. Spidey's heart raced. He had found something. "What is that?" he whispered, his voice echoing off the walls of the cavernous room. He cautiously approached the pedestal, Snow at his side. The glow seemed to pulse with life, and as Spidey reached out to touch it, a sudden burst of light filled the room. The ground trembled beneath his feet, and a low rumbling sound echoed through the ruins. Snow barked anxiously, but Spidie remained calm. His curiosity outweighed his fear. The pedestal began to crack, revealing an ancient stone tablet hidden inside. With bated breath, Spidie carefully picked up the tablet. It was covered in more strange markings, but this time they seemed different, almost as if they were alive. "This must be the key to the island's secrets," Spidie murmured, holding the tablet up to the light. As soon as Spidie touched the tablet, the ground shook again, this time more violently. Dust and rocks fell from the ceiling, and Spidie could hear something approaching, something heavy. He quickly tucked the tablet into his bag, his eyes scanning the chamber for a way out. Snow's ears perked up, and she growled softly, sensing the danger. Spidie turned to her, her heart pounding. "I don't like this, Snow. Let's get out of here." But it was too late. From the shadows emerged a massive creature, its body covered in dark, spiny armor and glowing red eyes that pierced the darkness. It was huge, far larger than anything Spidie had ever encountered. It let out a guttural roar, causing the ground beneath their feet to vibrate. Spidie didn't hesitate. He grabbed his sword and shield, ready to defend himself and Snow. The creature lunged toward them, its sharp claws slashing the air with terrifying speed. "Stay close, Snow!" Spidie shouted as he dodged the creature's first strike. He swung his sword, but it barely made a dent in the creature's armor. This wasn't an ordinary monster, it was something much worse. Spidie and Snow darted around the chamber, doing their best to avoid the creature's attacks. He slashed at the creature's legs, hoping to weaken it, but each strike seemed to have little effect. The creature roared again, sending shockwaves through the room, and Spidie felt himself being thrown back by the force. With no time to waste, Spidie realized that fighting the creature head-on wasn't going to work. He needed to find a way to escape the ruins and get back to safety. He quickly scanned the room for an exit. His eyes locked onto a small, narrow tunnel hidden behind a pile of rocks. "Snow, this way!" Spidie shouted, running toward the tunnel. Snow barked, following him closely, her tail low as she sensed the danger. The creature continued to chase them, but Spidie and Snow were faster, ducking and weaving through the narrow passages. They finally reached the tunnel, but the creature was close behind, its heavy footsteps echoing in the corridor. Spidie and Snow crawled through the narrow opening just in time as the creature's claws narrowly missing them as they squeezed through. Breathing heavily, Spidie and Snow emerged on the other side of the tunnel, finding themselves back in the open air of the island. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the landscape. Spidie turned to Snow, relief flooding over him. "We made it, Snow, but we're not done yet." Spidie and Snow made their way back to the village, exhausted but determined to uncover more of the island's secrets. They had the tablet now, and it was the key to everything. But Spidie knew that there were more dangers ahead. The ruins were just the beginning. As they reached the safety of the village, Spidie sat down on a rock, catching his breath. Snow lay beside him, tired but happy. Spidie looked at the tablet in his hand, the strange markings glowing softly. "We'll figure this out, Snow. We're in this together." And with that, they began planning their next steps, knowing that the island still held many more secrets to uncover and many more dangers to face.
Spidie and Snow sat at the edge of the village, catching their breath after their narrow escape from the ruins. The island was peaceful once more, but Spidie's mind raced. He couldn't shake the thought of the creature they'd encountered. It was no ordinary monster. It felt like a guardian of something much larger, something hidden deep within the island. Snow wagged her tail next to him, her energy renewed after the escape. She nudged him, as if to say, "What's next, boss?" Spidey smiled at her, patting her head. "You're right. We need to figure this out, Snow. Let's go back to the village and see if anyone knows more about these ruins," Spidey said, standing up and brushing the sand off his pants. The village was bustling with life. People were moving about, trading goods, and kids played in the streets. The houses were small but well kept, surrounded by crops and animals. Spidey noticed the village was growing, with new construction projects underway. He approached the town's leader, a burly man with a long beard who seemed to be organizing the villagers. The man looked up as Spidey walked up to him. "Hello, stranger. I see you've returned. We heard rumors of a monster in the ruins. It's not the first time someone has encountered it. We've been trying to figure out what it guards, but so far, no luck." Spidey raised an eyebrow. "You know about the ruins? What's in there?" The leader rubbed his beard thoughtfully. "There's been talk of a powerful artifact hidden deep within the ruins. Some say it holds the power to control the elements of the island. That's why it's so heavily guarded by those creatures. People have tried to retrieve it, but no one has returned." Spidey's interest peaked. An artifact that powerful could be the key to understanding the island's mysteries, but he knew that the dangers of the ruins weren't over, not by a long shot. "I'm going back there," Spidey said firmly. "I need to find out what's really going on." The leader nodded slowly. "I figured as much. Just be careful, kid. And take this," he said, handing Spidey a map. "It's a guide to the most dangerous areas. The ruins are bad, but there's a worse place further beyond. You'll need this if you plan to survive." Spidey thanked the man and tucked the map into his bag. He glanced over at Snow, who was wagging her tail energetically, ready for the next adventure. "We'll figure it out, Snow," Spidey said with a grin. "Let's go." The journey to the ruins was longer than Spidey had anticipated. As they walked, Spidey and Snow passed through forests, across rivers, and over hills, following the path marked on the map. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the landscape, and the evening air was cool and crisp. As they neared the ruins, Spidey felt a strange sense of foreboding. The wind had picked up, carrying an eerie whisper that seemed to beckon them closer. Snow barked nervously, her ears perked up as if sensing something was off. "We're getting close," Spidey murmured. "Stay close, Snow." The entrance to the ruins loomed ahead, its massive stone doors cracked open as if inviting them in. The moment they stepped inside, the temperature dropped and the air grew thick with dust and decay. The faint glow of Spidey's torch illuminated the path ahead, but the shadows seemed to stretch far longer than they should have. Spidey led the way cautiously, keeping his senses alert. Snow walked beside him, her tail low, sniffing the air for danger. As they descended deeper into the ruins, the walls began to close in, and the sounds of dripping water and distant echoes filled the air. It was as if the very structure of the ruins was alive, watching them. Eventually, they reached the chamber where the pedestal stood. Spidey's heart raced as he saw the artifact glowing faintly in the center of the room. It was a large spherical object surrounded by ancient carvings. The pedestal was protected by a circle of stone statues, each one holding a different weapon: swords, spears, and shields. "This is it," Spidey whispered. "The artifact everyone's been talking about." Snow barked, but it wasn't a happy bark. It sounded more like a warning. Spidey took a step forward, but as soon as he did, the ground trembled beneath him. The stone statues began to shift, and the room grew darker. A low growl echoed from the shadows, and Spidey's eyes widened in realization. He had triggered the trap. "Not again!" Spidey muttered, drawing his sword. Snow barked and stood protectively in front of him. From the shadows emerged a massive creature, its body covered in dark, spiny armor and glowing red eyes. It was the guardian of the artifact. Spidey raised his sword, ready to fight. The creature charged, its claws slashing through the air. Spidey dodged its first attack, narrowly avoiding the razor-sharp claws. He swung his sword, but it bounced off the creature's armor with little effect. Snow lunged at the creature's legs, distracting it just enough for Spidey to land another hit. But the creature was fast, and it wasn't going down without a fight. It swiped at Spidey, knocking him back into a pile of rubble. He scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest. "We can't keep fighting like this," Spidey realized. "I need to find a weakness." Looking around, Spidey noticed a crack in the wall, a small opening where the creature couldn't reach. Spidey quickly formulated a plan. "Snow, get ready to run," he shouted. Spidey led the creature toward the opening, using his speed and agility to dodge its attacks. The creature followed, eager to catch him. As it neared the crack in the wall, Spidey took a deep breath and made a quick turn, slipping through the narrow gap just in time. The creature was too big to fit through the gap. It roared in frustration as Spidey and Snow made their escape. Spidey didn't stop to look back. They had to get out of there before more guardians appeared. Exhausted but determined, Spidey and Snow made their way back to the village. They had the artifact now, but they also knew that the ruins held more secrets and more dangers. Spidey looked down at the artifact in his bag, his fingers tracing the strange symbols etched into the surface. "We'll figure it out, Snow," Spidey said with a grin. "But for now, let's get back to safety."
Thanks for watching this adventure, everyone. We've just scratched the surface of what lies ahead, and there's so much more to uncover in the next episode. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Underworld Gaming, and leave a comment down below on what you think of the journey so far. We'll be back with part 2, where Spidey and Snow's adventure continues. Stay tuned for more action, mystery, and fun. See you in the next episode.